Hey guys, you're watching Just Hoop Talk podcast on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and to our podcast on all streaming platforms. All right, guys, welcome to Just Hoop Talk podcast. This is episode number 1. You're with Justin Henry and
Will Thompson here.
Hey, so we're excited. I think this is a new venture for both of us. Both of us familiar in sports. I want to talk a little bit about who we are, why we're sitting in front of you guys, why you're listening to us over the podcast waves, but who we are and why this conversation is relevant, and then get into the sports, get into stuff that you guys want to hear about. But first, I'm going to let Will talk a little bit about who he is, his journey, and why he's sitting here today.
Yo, what's up? My name is Will Thompson. So I'm a photographer here in Sacramento, but I've been a basketball fan, lover my entire life. I've played, since I can remember, really, I have photos of me as like a little guy playing basketball, and I played pretty much my entire life, all throughout high school and college. I still play to this day at 35 years old. I'm the old dude in the gym, like trying to get buckets, playing like extra defense and stuff, setting screens, you know, being fundamental. But I love the game, and I love being around it, talking about it, watching, being involved as much as possible. I'm not involved as much anymore, but you know, we're trying to get back into the game and get in that world here in Sacramento, and so getting involved with like social media and photography and that type of stuff. And I think for me, what excited me about doing this is just an outlet, because I'm always thinking about basketball, whether it be college or the pros, and I'm always, things are spinning in my head, and it's fun to just sit and talk about it and get some of this stuff out there, you know. Yeah. So it's just a little creative outlet for us to share with other people, share our personal perspectives that I hope can, I don't know, shed some light on some things or give a different perspective to listeners, you know?
That's dope. Yeah. That's dope, dude. And if so for you, I know kind of giving that different perspective, what's the one thing that, as you push this message out, as we continue to grow this podcast, what's the one thing you want the listeners to really focus on and get from your point of view? Right.
I think the biggest thing for me is like, I want to be honest about what I see in kind of the state of the game. I think there's so much, like if you watch ESPN, and that's a majority of what I watch is ESPN radio. There's so much BS out there, dude. Like, so much faking and I don't know, politics involved with stuff, and a lot of people don't just say the truth and speak the truth. Yeah, just keep it real. So that's what I really hope to bring to this podcast.
Good stuff, dude.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, for me, I'm also a Sacramento native. We actually played basketball together back in the day. Yeah. Still play, and I've always been a really big like fantasy advocate too. So the numbers have got with me. So even back when I was younger, I had like sports almanacs. And so currently right now running a marketing company here in the area, helping out businesses. And one of the things that I want to do is have a creative outlet to talk about sports. You know, this is something that for me, even in college, I've had this idea back before YouTube was even really big, you know, had this idea of like getting on a podcast or doing it. And it's like never actually sitting down and getting it done, man. Actually being able to talk about it is something that we do all the time. You know, we talk about sports, and I think this Just Hoop Talk podcast is really coming at the right time, right at the start of the season. College season is going to start up here soon. There's a lot of things to talk about. So kind of doubling back on what you mentioned about having that creative outlet to just get the message out is really cool, man. And I mean, like I said, you talk about hoop. Everybody talks about basketball, but one thing I think that I try to bring to the table is that counterpoint of view. Yeah. Everybody has, you know, a lot of people have that same mentality towards things, and I'm like, no, I think that it's really this way, and I'm not scared to say that. Right. So I think what the listeners, anybody that's paying attention will get out of me is probably that, not necessarily like that Skip Bayless or radical, radical point of view, but just something that makes you think a little bit differently. Yeah. That's what I hope to deliver.
Another thing, too, that I think is unique about you and will be cool is you have a son who's entering the basketball world and the basketball realm. And so you're going to be able to see kind of what's happening with the next wave, you know, like the perspective from a youngster or a parent with a youngster coming up in the game now, because I know it's different.
Dude, it's so true, man, because when we were coming up, this AAU thing was not popping in. Like, my son, he's 8 years old, about to turn 9. But this whole world is different now. Like, people are actively recruiting him. And I think even talking about, like, things, the upcoming changes, like in 2023 with the college players getting paid, like, those are topics of discussion. You're right that we can have different points of view. You as a college player, me with somebody who's probably going to be a college player at some point or a high school player. It'll be a really different conversation.
Yeah. Dope. All right, man. Let's get into it.
Let's get it cracking. I think one of the big things we need to do is kind of introduce this season overall in general, and just talk about like what happened last year. There was some, we saw changing of the guard really with the Warriors, the Raptors, and then this whole crazy offseason with free agency. So what are your thoughts kind of on that free agency period, just how the narrative of the NBA has changed from Warriors dominance to now it's pretty open. Right. There's a lot of changes in personnel, a lot of changes in coaching, a lot of changes in just the dynamic of Eastern Western Conference. So what's one of the things that you're most excited, or maybe just some of your parting thoughts from the last season?
Yeah, I was thinking about this last night, and to me it looks like the beginning of a new era, like a new era of basketball. So the last era was like the big threes, right? Yep. Like the super teams. And now you're seeing everyone partnering up. So you're seeing everyone partnering in twos with LeBron and Anthony Davis, or down in LA with the Clippers. Like, you're seeing a lot of people pairing up as twos.
The young risers in Dallas.
Yeah. In Houston also. Yep. A lot of pairs now. So it'll be interesting to see if this is the beginning of a new era and generation of basketball. Because I look at basketball like kind of broken up into eras, right? Like Jordan, Kobe, like Tim Duncan, LeBron had his era, and now, I mean, it could still be LeBron's era, but it's definitely going to look different. You know?
And it's almost like you said, kind of in those player eras, it's almost like decade eras too. The style of basketball in the 70s was different than 80s. 90s ball was different than 2000s, and it's like we're coming in on 2020.
Yeah, exactly.
So that too, you mentioned how it was kind of big three, and that really did start with that Celtics team. Yeah. Back in, what was that, 2008, 2009? So like right at the tail end is when it transitioned into the big three in Miami, and then it just evolved over time. And I like that now that I think the players are realizing, hey, we can have competition. You can go and be a Kawhi and win with a lesser team when you just have the team effort. Yep. And you can win on your own. You don't have to. The stacked teams don't always win.
I think that was the biggest thing that came through last year, was just like having two great players or one great player and some solid role players can win you a championship. Granted, there was a lot of injuries, but I think the formula has changed. You don't have to have three major superstars, which adds more parity to the league, makes shit more interesting. Like, I'm super interested. That's another thing too, is like, to me, the league is wide open right now.
Yeah, it really is.
The Lakers look great, but I mean, I just don't see them that far ahead of everyone else.
Dude, and I think the opposite. I think that the Lakers, the way that they're set up, and I'm not just saying this because I like the Lakers, but Lakers, I think that setup, when you have two of the best players in the league at their position with a good supporting cast, I almost find that more valuable than like three stud players with a lesser stud, a lesser cast. And when you add LeBron to a player like AD, who just hasn't stayed healthy, hasn't had that dynamic, and then you pair him with like key valuable role players, like you got championship pieces in Danny Green, even like Kyle Kuzma, somebody that's a young up and comer. Like, they have the pieces that surround that. But then you also go to a team like Houston, who has the championship pieces around two players, like the Clippers with Paul George and Kawhi. Like, you have those pieces, and it does bring a different element to the game. And I'm kind of excited to see, because it's not just the Western Conference. Even like Milwaukee's still around. You still got those teams in the East that are going to make noise too.
Yeah, I think the Sixers look like they're going to be really solid this year too. Yeah. If Ben Simmons really can shoot, like, that's a game changer.
He finally hit one.
I think too, looking at some of those sleeper teams like Utah, I think Utah low key is going to be tough, man. With Conley, like, they're going to be tough.
See, Utah, man. I hate Utah. I hate Utah, man. They always have been that team that's like a gritty, grimy team. They always are around.
And Conley is that in this fits right in with that, you know?
Yeah. Do you think so? I want your opinion on Utah, because Utah is a trendy pick right now, not just to make noise in the Western Conference, but to even have like a championship appeal. And that's different than the Utah teams in the past. Like it hasn't always been like that. And Utah's always seen as a team, okay, they'll make some noise and then they'll fade out, but they're not really a championship contender. Do you really think that Conley is that much of an improvement over Rubio?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I think Conley brings so much more to the table. Like, he can score.
Yeah.
Rubio just, to me, couldn't score. He gets to the basket every once in a while, but he couldn't score. Conley can distribute. I think the biggest thing is defensively, like, Conley's going to be a beast, man. And then having, what's his name? The Stifle Tower.
Gobert.
Rudy Gobert. And then with Joe Ingles.
Yeah. And they got Bogey, too, the other Bogey.
Yeah.
So they got him, too,
they got shooting. So they're solid, man. I don't think they're up there with the Lakers and the Clippers. Mm-hmm. But I'm not a big Rockets fan. I'm not a big fan of what they've put together there. I put them above the Rockets, honestly.
Wow. We'll have to go into our Western Conference standings in one of our episodes here soon, man. But I think the dynamic that you mentioned, and just kind of leading into the season, it's like, who stays healthy out of the big two?
Yeah,
now
that's
you have
true.
A big two. If one of them goes down, the dynamic of your team changes a whole lot.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see, who kind of takes that next step and who avoids injury, because even a team like Milwaukee is still there.
Yeah.
I really like what they've done. They built it. It feels like they have a really strong foundation.
Yeah.
With the reigning MVP, they have the pieces around him to support it, the vet pieces and the young pieces. Even though they traded away Brogdon, I still like what their product is.
Right, yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how they challenge, how those new challenges in the East, how the Phillies of the world, and even some of those teams, you don't know what they're going to do, like a New Atlanta out there.
I think
they have that young wave of building a team is kind of happening in the East.
Yeah, I think Atlanta looks like especially in the East, they look like a playoff team.
Yeah.
Trae Young is tough, man. They got some young pieces. Yeah, they got some young pieces.
They got the baby Warriors out there.
Yeah, really. And then you can't count out Kyrie, man. Like in Brooklyn, they were a playoff team last year without KD. So I think you replace D'Lo with Kyrie, you still should be a pretty good team, if not a little bit better. So.
And I like Orlando too.
They're
a lot of people count him out. They got Fultz in there, and if he gets any type of confidence back, that could low key be a sneaky piece. I mean, Vucci's one of the more dominant players that doesn't get talked about. He's basically like the Eastern Jokic.
Exactly.
Exactly. You know what I mean? As far as popularity wise, he doesn't get enough credit for what he does to that team and what he brings to the table.
That's another team too, is Denver, man. I don't know if I see them elevating in the standings at all this year, just because I think the West is that tough. But they're another team that's just, the West is so deep, man.
I love what Denver. I think Denver is one of the more sneaky teams to win the championship, because not only do they have Jokic and Jamal Murray, and they have just a team of just gritty players that does their job, like a Gary Harris or somebody that brings it to the table. But if they get anything out of Michael Porter Jr.
Oh
that takes them into a whole nother stratosphere, because he's a top player.
Yep.
He was a top player in high school, top player in college, and if they get anything out of him, if he enters that starting role or just 30-minute role, man, I love what they're able to do.
That's true, yeah. I forgot about him. I watched him play in the preseason, and he looks smooth. Like you said, if he's anything as advertised, they're going to be tough.
Yeah.
Because he's supposed to be he's projected to be a superstar.
Superstar.
So if they can, that's the one thing that they don't really have.
Yep.
Jokic is great, but they don't really have a superstar. Like somebody you can go to consistently to get a bucket.
Yeah.
They don't really have that. So if they have that in him, watch out.
It would take it to a whole nother wave. It's kind of like, when you add that one piece, and when you don't have a superstar, it's tough, because either your good players have to become superstars.
Right.
Or you know what I mean? Or you just don't have a chance. And I kind of feel like that's where our hometown team is right now. Our Sacramento Kings, man. It's like, unless Fox really takes that superstar step, it's like, they may be a verge of playoffs, but to take that next push, how do you get that superstar here in Sacramento when you have to pay a Buddy Hield?
Yep.
You have to pay. You just paid a Harrison Barnes. You have to pay a Bogey. What do you think about the Kings this year, man?
Yeah, I like where the Kings are at. I think they're on the verge of a playoff berth. But I think it's really up to Fox and even Bagley.
Dude, yeah.
I think Bagley kind of has to pan out, and then Fox has to take that next step.
Yep.
Whether it's this year or next year, the franchise is kind of depending on De'Aaron Fox becoming a superstar or not, honestly.
I think you made a good point with Bagley, too.
Yeah.
You know, he's a young player, obviously second year in the league, but they get anything of what he's projected to do at a number 2 pick.
Yep.
Like, that changes their dynamic as well. And even some of those key pieces like a Harry Giles, like what step does he take? One of the younger rookies, a Kyle Guy, what impact can he make off the bench once he gets called up?
Yep.
There's so much with that team, and it's like, I think, you know, with that not having a superstar, where do they fit in that Western Conference is something that we'll be able to talk about, I think, here really soon.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you got to look at is if they get into the playoffs, who's not in the playoffs, you know?
Yeah.
And obviously the Lakers are going to be in the playoffs this year.
Lakers are going to be in.
Without a doubt. So who's dropping out?
Yep.
And, okay, everyone's going to say OKC, right? Like, OKC's dropping out. That's the Lakers spot.
Yeah.
Who's falling out?
I don't know. We got to go through we got to go through like playoff picture and everything, dude. This is cool, and I think we have to set up for, you know, I hope the listeners enjoy what we bring to the table. You know, we're going to talk a lot. I think there's a lot of basketball knowledge between the both of us. Eventually, probably mixing some guests and things like that. But to get this thing started, I think we're on the right track, and we got about, a week before season starts? A little over a week?
Yeah.
So we'll get in some, you know, Western Conference, Eastern Conference, some sleepers, some underrated players, may tie in some fantasy, some college.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to hear. If there's anything, you know, we have an IG page too, at JustHoopTalk. So feel free to drop in the comments any questions that you have, any topics you want to hear about, things you want to see on the page, things you want to hear about in the podcast.
Yep.
We're all ears.
Boom. Good stuff, man.
JustHoopTalk Volume 1. How you feel about that?
I feel great.
Yeah, I feel like this is
fun, man.
This will be good, dude. And I think that we got something special here, and you know, I think that there's 2 different types of voices here, which blend well together. So let's see how this rolls, man.
Yeah, hopefully the people like it. That's the main thing.
Yeah,
if they like it. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really matter if they like it. We're gonna do it anyway.
Hey, it's gonna be out there.
It's our creative outlet.
It's cool.
Hopefully people like to listen to it.
Yeah,
if not,
man.
Oh well.
You know, JustHoopTalk is a perfect name too.
Yeah.
How'd you come up with it?
I don't even remember. I have no idea.
I love it though, man. JustHoopTalk, and that's what it's gonna be. JustHoopTalk.
We're just talking about hoops.
We out.
Boom.
For more NBA, college, and hoops coverage, be sure to subscribe to Just Hoop Talk podcast on YouTube and all streaming platforms.